Good evening, class. This is Mrs. Albright, and tonight we are going to be going over lesson 29 and 30, and our objective is to divide 3 and 4-digit numbers with and without a 0 in the quotient. So make sure you have a piece of scratch paper or a whiteboard so that you can work alongside me during this lesson, and let's get started. Our first problem is 4,325 divided by 3. I am going to start off still modeling this in a tape diagram. And this time we have to go all the way up to the thousands. And if I model the number that we're dividing, we have 3 thousands, or 4 thousands, 3 hundreds, 2 tens, and 5 ones. And we are dividing into groups of 3. So I can make one group of 3, and that used up 3 of my thousands. So I have 1,000 left over that I need to regroup. And now I can make more groups of 3. One group of 3, 2, 3. I can make 4 groups of 3 because I'm going to bring down those 300s and think of it as 1300s. And I was able to make 4 groups of 300s. That used up 12 of my hundreds. And you can see I've got 1 left over that I'm going to regroup here into my tens. So now I'm going to bring down those 2 tens, put it together with the 10 tens that I just regrouped from the hundreds. And so now I have 12 tens. And I'm going to ask myself, well, how many groups of 3 can I make with those 12 tens? And I've got 4. So I can say 3 goes into 12 tens 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. I'm going to bring down my last value, which are my 5 ones. And I'm going to see how many groups of 3 can I make there. And the answer is 1. 3 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. So my remainder is 2. I always want to multiply to check my work. So 1,441 times 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. And I got 4,323. I'm going to add my remainder of 2. And I get back to my original dividend, so I know I did my work correctly. So here with 4-digit division, we are doing the same exact steps as we've been doing with our 2 and our 3-digit division. It's just that since we have 4 digits here, I have to do that divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down step 4 times. Once for my thousands, once for my hundreds, once for my tens, and then finally to divide my ones. Now it's your turn to try a 4-digit division problem, 2,254 divided by 3. Now think about your thousands. If I only have 2 thousands, can I make a group of 3? And if not, remember what we learned last night about what you should write up in the quotient. Now our next problem only has 3 digits, but you notice that we have a 0 here. So we're going to be learning how we should handle that. So I'm going to start with my place value chart. I've got ones, tens, hundreds. I'm going to model my number. I've got 8 hundreds, 0 tens, and 4 ones. And I'm going to go place value column by column to see how many groups of 4 I can make. So with my hundreds, I can make 2 groups of 4. So I'm going to write 2 up here. 2 times 4 is 8. I'm going to take away the 8 that I just divided. 8 minus 8 is 0. And I have no hundreds left over. So now I'm going to go to my tens column. Well, I don't have any value in my tens column. So I can't just leave this blank. I do have to put a 0 there. Can I make any groups of 4, or how many groups of 4 tens can I make? The answer is 0. So I put my 0 there as a placeholder, and I continue moving on to my ones and see how many groups of 1 can I make. So now that I'm looking at my ones, I'm going to go ahead and bring that 4 down and treat this like a new division problem. 4 divided by 4, I can make 1 group of 4. 1 times 4 is 4. I subtract, and I don't have any left over. So it is really important that you put this 0 here up in your quotient, because if you leave it out, you would end up with 21, and that is a very different value than 201. I can also multiply to check my work. 201 times 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 2 is 8. I get back to my original dividend that I started with. We're going to do our next problem here, 4,218 divided by 3. Again, I'm going to start by modeling this with my place value discs, 4,000s, 200s, 110, 8 ones, and I'm going to be dividing this into groups of 3. So I'm going to start with my thousands and ask myself, out of 4,000s, how many groups of 3 can I make? The answer is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 minus 3, I have 1,000 left over, so I'm going to regroup that and move that over here and make that 10 hundreds and put it together with the 200s I already have. Now with my 1200s, again, I'm going to circle my bundles of 3. I can make 1, 2, 3, 4 bundles of 3. So with my 1200s, I can make 4 bundles. 4 times 3 is 12. I'm going to subtract 12 minus 12 is 0, and I'm going to bring down my 110. I don't have anything to regroup for my hundreds column. I used up all of those hundreds. When I look at my 110, I ask myself, how many groups of 3 can I make with 110? And I can't make any. So again, this is where I have to write that 0 up here in my quotient. And I'm going to take that 10 and regroup it as 10 ones and put it together with the 8 ones that I already have. So now instead of dividing 110, I couldn't divide it, so I had to put my 0 up on the top there in my quotient. But now with my 18 ones, I can make groups of 3. And I ended up making 6 groups of 3 ones. 3 times 6 is 18, because that's how many ones it used up, and I don't have any left over. So my final answer is 1,406 with 0 remainders. I can also multiply to check my work. 3 times 6 is 18, 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1, 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, and that gets me back to my original dividend, so I know I divided correctly.